Why don't immigrants just come here legally? I mean, I hear this all the time. I'm not against immigration. Immigration makes America great, but you have to do it the right way. You have to come here legally. So I'm gonna go through a couple examples in this video for why it might not be possible to do it the right way, why it's actually a completely broken system, and I'm curious to know whether or not you agree with me. You can rip me to shreds in the comments section, as you ordinarily do, and I will take it. Okay, so let's talk about sibling petitions. So this is when a US citizen wants to petition for his brother or sister to come to the United States. Currently, there is a processing delay of around 16 years for sibling petitions. And that's just for most countries. There are a few countries that are actually longer than that. There are quotas per country that are relevant when we are looking to see how many people can come over to the United States from each country. And so let's say you are a sibling who's outside of the US waiting for your petition to become current. You're waiting 16 years, you're 10 years into it. You know, okay, in 6 years, I can go to the consulate and apply for a visa, and me, my spouse, and my 2 kids can go over to the United States because my brother's petition that he filed 10 years ago will become current. And let's say your US citizen brother dies right before it becomes current. Guess what? That petition dies with him. And now you're out of luck, no other pathway back into the United States. What about petitions by US citizen parents for their children who are under the age of 21? That would be considered an immediate relative category. No mandatory waiting period. It can be pretty fast. There's still a processing time. Currently, it's probably like 2 years in most situations, but that's not bad. 2 years to be able to pursue the American dream. Most people will wait 2 years to pursue the American dream. The moment that child turns 21 though, that jumps from no waiting period to a minimum of 8-year waiting period. And if they're now married, that jumps up another 5 years, probably close to 13-year waiting period. So much more difficult to do. Waiting 13 years, I don't know, it's hard to plan 13 years out into the future. Now let's look at a completely different part of the immigration system. Asylum is a complicated set of rules and regulations, and parts of it come from international law and then domestic US law, which is meant to be in compliance with international conventions against torture and other conventions. Now, asylum law basically says that no matter how you entered the US, if you apply for asylum within 1 year, you can pursue your asylum claim. Let's say you entered with the tourist visa, but it was a fake tourist visa. It was a fraudulent document inside of your fraudulent passport. Asylum law says that once you apply for asylum, you're lawfully present in the United States, even if you entered through false pretenses or fraud. The fraud will not prevent you from submitting a valid asylum claim. The law basically says you gotta do what you gotta do to escape persecution. And it's lawful to apply for asylum even if you've entered fraudulently. And now let's take a third example. Let's say you enter completely illegally. So no one who's unlawfully present in the US is illegally in the US. Being in the US without status is not illegal, contrary to what you hear all these people say, like these illegals. They're not actually illegal. Human beings are never illegal. But entering without inspection at the border, basically sneaking across the border, trying to evade immigration, that is a misdemeanor. It is a low-level offense and it is a crime. But even if you enter illegally, you are still eligible for asylum. And although that initial action of entering the United States was illegal, the moment you apply for asylum, you are lawfully present in the United States. And so, is that the wrong way to do it? Our asylum law says that someone who illegally enters, fraudulently enters, or legally enters is eligible for asylum in the United States. It is lawful to apply for asylum in the United States. So it's interesting. I'm not saying that you should enter illegally or you shouldn't enter illegally. I'm just saying it's an interesting question and it's full of gray areas that many people haven't considered. A little bit of a side tangent here. I have tons of clients who enter the US without inspection from Central America. And almost without fail, when I ask them, why did you come to the United States? The answer is, because I couldn't live there anymore. My life was in danger. As soon as the gangs who are basically running the country saw that I was making $1 from like some side hustle that I set up in my front yard selling empanadas, they started to extort me. And when I didn't pay them, they killed my family member. And then I had to leave. Like, this is a story I hear so frequently that it's exhausting and it's infuriating to hear people say these people are just coming over here and trying to abuse the immigration system. I do understand that there is some bias and that I'm an immigration lawyer, and I'm sure there are many people just entering the US to work and who don't actually have a fear of returning home, but those aren't the people who I'm typically exposed to. I see the people who are trying to defend themselves from deportation and apply for asylum, and before you say this, they're not all lying to me. Like, I have a lot of super traumatized clients, and as I'm sitting across the desks from them, watching them hysterically cry about how, their entire family was killed with a machete and how they're next, I can't help but wonder, like, all of the pleasures and all the things I enjoy in this life are because I'm a US citizen. And in my case, I had nothing to do with that. It's just, I got lucky. I'm a US citizen, and the person sitting across the desk from me is not. And so I can enjoy a life full of freedom and prosperity where they cannot. And so I would just implore some of the people who watch these videos who hate immigrants to have a little sense of humanity. We are all human beings. People don't just wake up and decide, you know what? I'm gonna throw it all away. I'm gonna sell my house. I'm gonna pay a human trafficker every dollar I have to go to a country where I don't speak the language and where everyone's gonna hate me and where I have to basically do a menial job to get by for substandard wages. I mean, no one wants that life. So before you think that people are just like flooding into the US for free handouts, consider their lives are actually quite difficult. And taking the life-threatening journey from Guatemala to the United States, where you could easily die and women frequently get raped, children get kidnapped. I mean, you need to be in a dire situation to take a risk like that. No one just wakes up and says, I'm gonna throw it all away on a gamble. And if I make it, I make it. So just think about that before you demonize immigrants for all of society's ills. I've been doing this job for a while, and I would say once every few months, I have some old lady or man come to me and say, I have this guy, he works for me, he's my landscaper, his name's Jose. He's one of the good ones. He's one of those he works so hard, he's trying to learn English, he'll do anything I want him to do. He's so nice. He even filed a tax return. How can I fix Jose's immigration status? I want a petition for him. I'm willing to help him. And we have like a running joke in my office where it's like, oh, this person just wants to wave their white American guy wand and fix Jose's immigration status. And I have to have the difficult conversation with them that goes something along the lines of, unfortunately, Jose has no options. He has no way to fix his status. If he could, he would have by now. There are no legal ways for him to fix his status. And then the person will say, what about through marriage? And my response is, to fix your status easily through marriage, you must have lawfully entered the United States. You must have entered with inspection, which generally means with a visa. If you didn't, it's a long and arduous process. You'll need a waiver, you'll need to go back to your home country, and there's no guarantee you'll get granted and be allowed back into the US. And then the person will say to me like, well, They work for me, can't I just sponsor them for employment? No, you can't. Once they are out of status, you cannot fix someone's status through any employment-based options. And their options basically become, you can try to marry a US citizen, but there's a good chance that's not gonna work and you're not gonna be able to fix your status that way, although you might be able to. Or if you've been the victim of a crime, we could pursue like a U visa by trying to show that you cooperated with law enforcement, and that may or may not work. It'll take like 5 to 7 years before you have any semblance of being lawfully present in the United States or have some sort of immigration status. Or there are a couple other options, few and far between, like if you've been the victim of domestic violence, we can do a VAWA petition, or a few other random things. But there are no legal ways to fix your status easily for the majority of people who are unlawfully present in the United States. Alright guys, so I just wanted to make this video really quickly because I've been hearing a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment, and just remember, the lifestyles we enjoy here in the US as US citizens are largely contingent on immigrants helping subsidize our lifestyles. And before you blame immigrants for all of society's ills, just remember, like, you probably had nothing to do with the fact that you're a US citizen. But anyway, throw it in the comments. If you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm oversimplifying it, I would love to hear what your opinion is. If you're new to my channel and you need assistance with any immigration stuff, I'm your guy. Schedule a consultation. You can find my information in the video description below. I focus on family-based immigration, naturalization, and some deportation defense. I've been trying to put out regular videos on these topics and a lot of Trump's immigration policy changes. So if you're interested in those things, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.